They took their specially modified cat to a park outside a Soviet compound, released it from a van, and watched as their million-dollar spy cat immediately wandered into traffic and got hit by a taxi. Their first spy cat lasted about 5 minutes before using up all 9 lives at once.
Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel if you're new. And without wasting any time, let's get to the video.
Let's get right into it. Number 10. The untraceable assassination weapon. Imagine you're at a busy cafe in the 1970s. You feel a tiny sting, like a mosquito bite. By the time you look around, there's nothing to see. A few hours later, you're dead from what looks like a natural heart attack. This was a real weapon developed by the CIA. In 1975, Congress held hearings about this weapon. They even brought the gun to show everyone. The gun fired a tiny dart made of ice. This dart was smaller than the tip of a needle. Inside the ice was a super potent shellfish toxin. When the dart hit someone, it melted instantly. The toxin would cause a massive heart attack, and the evidence literally melted away. The only trace left behind was a tiny red dot, smaller than a mosquito bite. Even if someone found the mark, it just looked like the person got stung by something. During an autopsy, the toxin was nearly impossible to detect. It was the perfect weapon for making murder look like natural causes. The truth only came out because of a church committee investigation that accidentally stumbled onto it. The CIA had to admit it was real, but they never said how many times they used it, or if they still have these weapons today. Number 9.
That would be terrifying. And just because they got caught doesn't mean they don't use it anymore. So it's crazy what governments do. The things they do that we'll probably never find out about.
The city-sized germ test. In 1950, the U.S. Navy secretly sprayed the entire city of San Francisco with bacteria. They called it Operation Sea Spray, an experiment to test how vulnerable American cities were to biological attacks. They filled giant sprayers with Serratia marcescens bacteria and blasted it into the city's fog. The bacteria spread through nearly all of San Francisco, forcing 800,000 residents to inhale it. The military celebrated their successful test, but things quickly went wrong. Doctors at Stanford University Hospital started seeing unusual cases of serious urinary tract infections. The cause was Serratia marcescens, the same bacteria used in the test. One patient, Edward Nevin, died from this infection. His grandson sued the government, but the court ruled national security was more important than one death. The government didn't stop there. They conducted similar tests in 239 other cities. This remained secret for decades until 1976, when the truth finally came out. The government had turned its own citizens into unwitting test subjects for biological weapons experiments. Number 8.
Imagine having someone in your family die, like a parent or a brother, and then going to court and having them dismiss you like it was nothing. I wouldn't know what to do. But it's crazy to see the things people like this would do without even feeling bad about it. And these people are usually in charge of our governments.
How sugar barons paid scientists to lie. In 1967, sugar companies faced a crisis. Scientists were linking sugar to heart disease. Their product might become as controversial as cigarettes. The Sugar Research Foundation's solution was brilliantly evil: pay scientists to blame something else. They gave 3 Harvard scientists $50,000 in today's money to write a paper. The mission was clear: blame fat for heart disease and clear sugar's name. The paper got published in the prestigious New England Journal of Medicine. Everyone became terrified of fat, while sugar walked free. No one knew about these secret payments for decades. Scientists didn't have to disclose their funding sources back then. This launched the fat-free craze of the 80s and 90s. Those fat-free cookies and cakes simply replaced fat with sugar. While people avoided butter like poison, they were loading up on sugar instead. The truth stayed hidden until 2016, when researchers discovered letters between the sugar industry and the Harvard scientists. But the damage was done. Generations had been misled about nutrition. Number 7.
Doesn't really matter what you're eating. Too much of anything can be poisonous. So even water, drinking too much of it, under very specific conditions could be dangerous for your health. So you need to be careful and listen to your body. Usually your body will tell you if there's something wrong, and then you work from there, to find out what's happening.
Project Acoustic Kitty. The CIA actually spent millions of dollars trying to turn ordinary house cats into walking, purring surveillance devices. They surgically implanted a microphone in the cat's ear canal, a radio transmitter at the base of its skull, and wove an antenna into its fur. They were creating the world's first cyborg cat. These spy cats were supposed to wander near Soviet embassies, eavesdrop on secret conversations, and transmit everything back to CIA handlers. Because who would suspect a cat of being a spy? But cats don't follow orders. The CIA learned this the hard way during their first field test. They took their specially modified cat to a park outside a Soviet compound, released it from a van, and watched as their $1 million spy cat immediately wandered into traffic and got hit by a taxi. Their first spy cat lasted about 5 minutes before using up all 9 lives at once. The official CIA document about this failure is the most expensive "my cat got run over" story ever written. One agent wrote, "Our final conclusion was that cats are not very good at following instructions," and the CIA actually declassified documents about Project Acoustic Kitty in 2001. Number 6.
Imagine using a cat, for something like this. At least they could have tried using a dog or something. Cats are notoriously known for not following commands. But back then, there was a lot going on, so it's funny to see the things the governments back then did back then. But that was pretty funny.
The CIA's pet journalists. In the 1950s, the CIA turned hundreds of journalists into their personal propaganda puppets. During the height of the Cold War, the CIA was worried about communists spreading their ideas through newspapers. Instead of starting their own newspaper, they did something far more insidious. They started recruiting journalists from America's biggest news outlets. We're talking reporters from the New York Times, CBS News, and Time magazine. By the 1970s, the CIA had over 400 journalists working for them. Every time Americans picked up a newspaper, they might have been reading CIA-approved stories without knowing it. These journalists weren't just writing stories. They were planting fake news, killing stories that made the government look bad, and spying on people they interviewed. The operation was exposed in 1975 when Congress launched an investigation. They found so much evidence that the CIA had to promise they'd stop using journalists as spies. But there was a catch. They only promised to stop using American journalists. Number 5.
Using propaganda to sell your ideology, the ideology of your country is nothing new. Even where I'm from, newspapers and the news in general have been used in the same way. And it's understandable that through that, a lot of people have no confidence in the news, standard news and newspapers. But yeah, that's that happens everywhere. This is why you need to verify things on your own, do your own research and learn as much as possible. Don't just listen and believe.
5. The FBI versus the people. In 1971, a group of activists broke into an FBI office and stole thousands of secret documents. These documents revealed a secret program called COINTELPRO, where the FBI was actively trying to destroy American citizens' lives. The FBI wasn't just spying on people. They would send anonymous letters to people's spouses claiming they were having affairs. They would spread rumors that civil rights leaders were government informants. They would even try to convince people to kill themselves. Take Martin Luther King, Jr. The FBI sent him a letter encouraging him to commit suicide. They wrote, "There is only one way out for you. You better take it before your filthy, abnormal, fraudulent self is bared to the nation." They targeted anyone they considered subversive. Civil rights activists, anti-war protesters, and women's rights groups were all fair game. This program ran for 15 years before anyone discovered it, and we only know about it because some activists found the right filing cabinet. Number 4.
I feel like most of us, if not all of us, have heard about this story before. And it's crazy to see the kinds of lengths the FBI and CIA went to try and destroy the civil rights movement. And this begs the question, like, are there people like that still around? There's a chance that there's still quite a number of them, even if it's not all of them. So it's understandable when a lot of people out there they don't trust these organizations.
The Gulf of Tonkin incident. The Gulf of Tonkin incident was one of the most successful fake attacks in history. It started a war, and the US government knew it was fake almost immediately. On August 2, 1964, the USS Maddox was deliberately provoking North Vietnam to react as part of a secret operation. 3 North Vietnamese torpedo boats attacked the Maddox. This first attack was real, but what happened 2 days later would change history. On August 4th, the Maddox reported another attack. Sailors claimed they saw torpedo wakes in the water. They fired nearly 300 rounds at nothing. The commander of the Maddox even radioed back that he was pretty sure no actual attack had occurred. President Johnson went on national television, telling Americans we'd been attacked again. Congress passed the Gulf of Tonkin resolution almost immediately. This gave Johnson the power to wage war without actually declaring war. Secretary of Defense McNamara knew there was no attack. Johnson knew there was no attack. The NSA knew there was no attack, but 58,000 American soldiers would die in Vietnam anyway. Robert McNamara later admitted in the documentary Fog of War that the whole thing was made up. Number 3.
I've heard about this story before, and so have most of you, but I've never really looked into it. Was there anything that happened to these people responsible? Were they punished in some sort of way? I really doubt that happened. But it's crazy to imagine that there are people like this running governments all over the world. That's why we need to be more careful when it comes to elections, so we make sure we don't end up choosing people like this to lead our countries.
The plan to attack America. In 1962, the highest levels of the U.S. military proposed staging fake terrorist attacks on American soil and blaming them on Cuba. These weren't vague ideas. They were detailed official proposals, signed by the chairman of the Joint Chiefs himself. The military wanted to blow up American ships in Guantanamo Bay. They planned to sink boats full of Cuban refugees, real people trying to escape to America. They even wanted to stage fake funerals for fake victims. The plan included blowing up a U.S. plane and blaming it on Cuban fighters. They were going to paint a U.S. plane to look exactly like a civilian airliner. This fake civilian plane would fly over Cuba, sending out distress signals about being shot down. Meanwhile, the real plane would secretly land at a military base. The public would think Cuba just murdered a plane full of innocent Americans. They also wanted to stage terrorist attacks in major American cities. Bombs would go off in Miami and Washington, D.C., and the news would blame Cuban agents. The only reason it didn't happen was because President Kennedy personally shut it down. The documents proving all this were kept secret for 35 years and declassified in 1997. Number 2.
35 years is a long time. It makes you wonder, what other things have they done that we'll probably never hear about? And even now, there are a lot of cases out there, like the Epstein files, that people want to know more about, and the government, for some reason, doesn't want to, provide that information. And there's so many more other things probably that have happened that we will never find out about.
The Guatemalan experiments. In 1946, American doctors flew to Guatemala to use actual human beings as lab rats. They picked the most vulnerable people they could find: orphans, mental patients, prisoners, and soldiers. These doctors wanted to see how STDs spread. Instead of studying people who already had these diseases, they decided to intentionally infect people without their knowledge or consent. They paid infected people to expose prisoners to these diseases. When that didn't work fast enough, they started directly injecting people with STDs. In some cases, they injected the diseases straight into people's spines. Over 5,000 people were part of these experiments. The doctors kept everything secret and bragged in private letters about how easy it was to conduct these experiments in Guatemala because nobody was watching. The U.S. government kept this hidden for over 60 years until 2010, when a researcher found the old documents. Most victims never knew they were part of an experiment. Many died without knowing why they got sick. Number 1.
I've always wondered how people could do things like this, but it's easier to understand when you realize that a lot of people out there don't think the same way you do. They don't have morals the same, and they can do anything. Imagine doing something like this to someone and then going out and living your life like you did nothing. And that's not to say that everyone is like this, but there's enough people around in society to make you wary of a lot of people.
The government's mind control program. Imagine waking up one day with no memory of the last few weeks. This actually happened to thousands of Americans. Project MK Ultra was the CIA's very real attempt at mind control. The CIA ran over 130 different programs across 80 institutions. They used hospitals, universities, and even mental health clinics as their playground. Most of their test subjects had no idea they were being experimented on. They even dosed their own employees. One CIA scientist, Frank Olson, was secretly given LSD during a work retreat. 9 days later, he jumped out of a 10th floor window. When his body was exhumed in 1994, forensic experts found injuries that suggested he was hit on the head before he fell. The CIA was convinced the Soviets had figured out mind control, so they tried everything: drugs, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, verbal abuse, and electroshock therapy. They wanted to find ways to make people forget secrets, reveal information, or become unwitting assassins. Most of the records were destroyed in 1973 when the program was exposed. The CIA director ordered all MK Ultra files to be shredded, but a clerical error meant that thousands of documents were stored in the wrong building. These surviving documents were found in 1977, revealing the true scope of the program.
I don't think I need to talk about this one. Most of us have heard about it already. And there was another one, another project that was just as similar as this one that maybe some of you haven't heard about. And it was, I think it was called Project Naomi. And that's going to be the end of the video. It was a pretty fun video. The link to it will be in the description. Go check out his videos. They're all pretty good. Thank you all for watching, and see you guys in the next video.